Beyond and Under with Bogdana Onishchuk. Hello, my dear listeners. Finally, we came to the second episode of Beyond and Under, which really excites me. And today I will talk about some reflections. I will reflect in front of you about certain things like success or personal growth. And also I will discuss a little bit and talk a little bit about environment that I grew in general about my life story. I was thinking a lot about exactly what I want to transfer to you and what I want to tell you about my life story. And in my head at first it was quite vague and it was abstract, and I didn't have that clarity, that structure in my head. What exactly should I talk about when the topic of my life story comes up in my head? And it came up in my head a lot of times, and every time I was so lost and I was not clear about that, so it was too abstract in my head. But today I realized that I want to open a few points to my life story, to my life and how it was growing up, or etc., or some details about that. And today we're gonna cover 3 points, which are environment that I grew in, how it shaped me, and why I'm grateful for it. And it's just the beginning, and later on we will talk more about it, and I will tell you more so that you can draw this picture of me as a character, as a character of this program, of this show Beyond and Under, so that you can create that character, that a certain personality, a certain face, a certain hair, that you can imagine me, and not just as a person that looks certain way, but also as a person that is certain way. So I'm not just, I don't want you to think or imagine my appearance only, but also my personality, my character, and such things that I find really important. And yeah, because it's Beyond and Under is a show, a program, is a show that I really want to talk about things that are important for me, but also in the middle of all these stories, or in all these reflections and thoughts, I want you to create a certain character, that you build your story, that you feel as if you're reading a book about a certain character, and that character is telling you about her life story, about her difficulties, about her struggles, about her obstacles. And at the same time, you feel so connected to that, because now you know the appearance, because now you can imagine the personality, because now you have that image in your head. So now every time I talk, it's no more just talking, but a part of the story, in the book that you are reading, except that you're listening to it every month. Maybe later on it will be twice a month, who knows? So you see, and I really want to work on it. I really want to work on creating a book by my voice, and creating a book by a certain interactions or encounters with other people as well. So that's why I didn't say I am a main character, because I think this is not about who's main character or not. It's about talking, and it's about getting your thoughts out and making yourself being heard. And that's what I'm going to do today. And I really hope that very soon that plan, because for me it's a real purpose that you really feel that you are reading a book every time, and then you know that person who's talking right now, you know that person, how that person is, the way she's sitting or the way she's talking or the way she's gesturing, because I'm gesturing right now a lot. I don't know why, but it's just my habit. It's just the part of me, part of my disposition. I'm emotional, and in some ways, and I'm using a lot of gestures when I talk. Well, and for that, I really want that every episode you get connected to me a little bit more. How to do that, I'm still thinking. In every episode, I'm trying to make it real, to make that possibility and that purpose of my audience, of my listeners, having that feeling of connection, that feeling of community, and that feeling of belonging to that book, to my book, to the book I'm telling you, that to the stories I'm sharing with you, that you just can't help but be the part. So let's start from my life story. Well, my life story, when I think about the words, my life story or something like that, I have a smile on my face. I have a smile on my face, and that is because I'm so grateful that my life story was exactly the way it was. And looking back, I might say that I would love to change a lot. But at some point of my life, I realized that I don't want to change anything about my past, about my process of growing up, process of becoming somebody, process of becoming myself. And I that would be really smart and sensible to ask or to imagine to change something about that, or a little bit, at least a little bit alter some things that happened. But now I can say I would think so in the past. Now I think that I wouldn't change a thing about it. I don't know why, but this enlightenment just came to me that if it had been, or it had happened differently, or if a certain situation had been in a different way, then I wouldn't have been the person I am now. I wouldn't have had a certain thing or a certain characteristic that I have now. I wouldn't have had a certain character or a certain mindset about life as well. So that's why I would not change a thing about the past or about my life story. And environment that I grew in, it was tough. It was really tough, but also it's also very hard to explain, because everybody's life story was hard. It was really hard, and hard to overcome and hard to get through. No matter how good or bad your life story is, it doesn't really matter, because we are all human and we all experience a lot of difficulties. We have different kind of difficulties, but still the way we feel them is very similar. And that's why to say that my life story was, that environment that I grew in was tough, is a little bit, it depends with what we are comparing. But here, I don't want to compare anything. And I don't want that you compare your life story with anything and anybody. Because it's hard. It's equally hard for everybody. When you talk with a person, and then more more than a month or 2 months, and you're really building a certain relationship with a person. You're really getting to know, asking the question, being eager about the past, present, and future. Then you realize that person's life wasn't easy at all, just as yours, but yours was in a different way, in a different aspect, and the person had difficulties in another aspect. But in the end, it's still the same. It's just different aspect, different angles, but still it's the same. So that's why I don't like having this comparison. And I know sometimes it's hard not to have it, because our reaction is to have the comparison, compare. But I would say that environment that I grew in and everybody's life story is hard. And it's full of tears, full of bruises, full of different sad things. But don't remember about the silver lining, because every life story is full of joy, full of moments, full of something beautiful as well. And going back to environment that I grew in, it was tough. It was really tough because I grew up in quite big family. I have 3 older brothers, and it was hard. And when I say that I grew up with 3 older brothers, everybody is just jealous, because they think that guarantee protection, or that guarantees something for you. But in fact, it's not always so. And there are a lot of conditions or a lot of factors that can influence that. And also remember about different personalities that we have, and remember about how different we are. And I've noticed that every family is presentations of such a difference, of such a diversity. Because in my family, I have 3 older brothers, and they are so different from me. It's a far cry from me. Of course, there are some outward similarities, but inside, talking about our personalities and characters, that's really hard to say that we have any similarities or something in common. Of course, there is a certain manner of talking or manner of communicating, but still maybe the voice, maybe this and that, but still it's very outward. But about personality, of course, we are very, very different from each other. And that's absolutely normal, because everybody was developing at their own pace, at their own as well way, because we couldn't have developed in the same way or under the same circumstances, because still, if I say I have 3 older brothers, it means that they are older. So we have an age gap, and it means that their life was also hard, or was also quite different from mine. So you see, it's really hard to talk about anything, because at one point you understand that everything has so many aspects and so many sides that you can't just give one ambiguous answer, one answer yes or no, because these kind of questions or this kind of discussion or topics, most of them, I would say almost every kind of thing, it's not about yes or no, or it's not about just saying the fact or something very, very straight so I grew up with 3 older brothers, and it was also very hard to live in a family when I was the only girl, because I couldn't find the understanding based on a gender. And this is absolutely okay, because I found that understanding in myself. I couldn't find that understanding in my mother, And that's why I was looking for that understanding in myself. And I ended up not finding it at all. And I ended up finding this gender understanding of being a girl or being a woman very late in my life. So this is the kind of a environment that I grew in. But beside that, it's not something significant. So I don't find it as, or I don't consider it as something significant or something that influenced me so much. Maybe it did, but I just don't see that in such a way now. So that is the environment, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm trying to gather my thoughts together and tell more about the environment that I grew in. Well, it was always kind of a struggle and kind of a, not struggle, but I would say this trying to overcome the thoughts of poverty or of being not having everything that you want. And that's absolutely healthy. That's absolutely okay, because we want a lot of things when we are kids, and we don't have that clarity about what we need, about our needs, about necessities, about what we can get. So we don't have that clarity about these things in our childhood. But I had reflections and I had thoughts about this topic of poverty, and about the topic of not having money, or not having money for just developing as a person personally, or the question of money as well. And it's really I only after many years of my adulthood I was able to talk about these topics, because before that I simply couldn't admit that. And it was not pleasant at all. It was not pleasant at all, to be honest. So I was living in the environment of always thinking about the money, and not that you don't have enough of them, and thinking about how to make them, even as a child. So I guess because of that thoughts and because of that environment, now I have quite great ambitions about my life, about my career, or about this topic of earning money. And I would say that influenced me a lot, the environment that I grew in. But also from the other side, I'm grateful for that. Because now I'm conscious about this, and now I'm clear about this, and now I know what I want, and I know why. Because now I worked on this point of thinking as a child, of thinking about money, or thinking about poverty, that I am poor, or I look poor, having a lot of insecurities about welfare, financial welfare. And I would just say that later on in my adulthood, I was able to work on that a little bit. But you live and learn, so it takes a lot of time. It takes whole life to really work on that sorely and completely. And after that, I was asking myself some questions. Why do I want success? Why do I want my ambitions to become true? Why do I want this and that? And after asking these kind of questions, I really gave a lot of answers to them. And the answers were like, I always like to do something. I like to be busy with things. So when I'm not developing, or I'm not making something, creating something intellectually, or not just intellectually, but also from the art point of view, then I'm not satisfied if I'm not doing anything, if I'm just comfortable. I'm not satisfied when I'm comfortable. I'm not satisfied when I'm just doing all right. I'm not satisfied when I'm going with the flow. Well, then I was giving these answers and understanding that I really would love to have or to own something on my own, because I want to create things and create them in so many aspects, because creating can be very different. It can be very different, and it can come from different sources, and it can have different outcomes as well. So I was giving these answers. I gave these answers to the questions, and then how it shaped me, how the environment that I grew in shaped me. So imagine I grew up in a Ukrainian family. I grew up in a small town in west part of Ukraine with 3 older brothers, and with all these ambitions on my back, and always doing something to make them real, even if it was so ridiculous, whatever I was doing. So that was the environment. Also, the environment was of that, whatever, I would say, there is a saying in English: how you sow, so shall you reap. And I always kind of I was living my childhood, my teenager years, according to this saying: how you sow, so shall you reap. And meaning that how much you work for whatever you want, and if you don't, in opposite case, if you don't, then you're not going to have anything, because you didn't sow anything. But if you sow something, then you can reap something. It doesn't really matter what amount of the harvest you have, but what matters is that you have harvest. And I was living according to this saying for until now, from a very early childhood, from the age of 6 or 5, from the age of 6 probably when I started school, of 6 till now, because I know that it's really true. How much you will prepare everything for your success or work hard for your success, and it doesn't really matter what kind of success we're talking about here. I'm not imposing a certain formula or a certain concept of success, and we're going to talk about this later after this point. But I lived in this kind of environment, so having a big family, being a little bit on your own in a lot of practical aspects, thinking about how to earn money and thinking about how to make my ambitions really real. And so it was also an environment of being on my own, as I mentioned already, and it was being on my own in the sense of my understanding of what I want, of the support, because I didn't get the support from anybody, but that's why I needed to give that support to myself. You see, so it was a lot of responsibilities about your own future, and I felt that, and I carried that, and I think I did it pretty well. Of course, a few years ago, I would not say so or think so, that I did it pretty well and I carried this whole things and desires that now are goals pretty well. But now I really looking back and adequately evaluating everything, I understand that I really did a great job. So that was the environment that I grew up. And of course, there were a lot of difficulties, like small difficulties, like everyday difficulties, like nobody understanding you, or I would say not nobody understanding you, but not really sharing your thoughts, not really sharing your goals or your dreams, because back then it took a lot of bravery, it took a lot of courage to say it out loud, or not just to dream about it, but really say, one day I will own my company, for example. You see, it's like it takes a lot of courage. Or one day I will be successful according to my definition of success. So that was the environment that I grew in, and I just realized that I do want to talk about this in details next episodes, but now about how it shaped me. Well, it shaped me in a very specific way. It made me very strong, and it made me very persistent and resilient. Because thinking about, well, it was not that hard. There were a lot of good things, a lot of good moments, and I do appreciate them and never forget them. But also, despite all these beautiful things and beautiful days and beautiful hours that I spent with some people that I really loved, or that I spent creating something that I really enjoyed, despite all of that, I would say that I had a lot of responsibility about my future from the very young age, because I knew that nobody's going to do that for me, and nobody going to help me, and I'm here on my own. And and having this understanding from the very young age, and when I say from the very young age, I mean the age of 8 or 7.5, 8, probably 8, from 8 to 9. It's a little bit hard because you are supposed to be a child. You're supposed to have your childhood in all beautiful aspects, but instead you end up thinking or worrying or knowing that you are the only guarantee for your future. It should be so. It should be so. But sometimes you need something more. Sometimes you need a genuine support. Sometimes you need a practical support. And when you end up not having it, you understand that you're just on your own. So you got to figure it out. You see, and for sure, it made me much more stronger. And it shaped me as a quite strong person. But, talking about how strong I am, well, I'm not that much, actually. I've met a lot of people, and they lived through so many difficulties. They are so strong. And I understand that I am not that strong, but it's also okay because I'm my kind of strong. And so how it shaped me, it made me quite responsible about my future, and it made me quite intensive about what I want. Because for me, it's really important to know what I want, because if I don't know, then I will be so lost, and I will not get it all together, and you don't have clarity. So how on earth can you move further? How on earth can you do steps toward whatever you want, whatever you desire? And I don't see any ways, because you're not clear. You're not, you haven't made the decision yet, the decision about who you want to be, or what you want to own, or what is your definition of success, or who are you, or what shape do you have, a psychological shape do you have. So it shaped me as a person who moves towards something that is important for her. It shaped me as a person who is not paying attention to those who are jealous, or to those who are trying to sabotage you, and not helping at all, who are just intoxicating and injecting you with something very negative that you can't go on. And it shaped me as a person who is callous. Maybe you know that word. It's when you're callous, it's a hard skin near your nail, so it's callous. And also, and when we're talking about the person callous, it means that person is not easily offended, or that person is not easily lets other people influence her or his mindset or mind or mental state. So how it shaped me, it made me callous. It made me really callous to a lot of things. And that's why very often I hear that some of my good friends, they tell me, I don't know you at all, or I don't know anything about you. And to some extent it's true because of that callousness, because it shaped me in a certain way that I know what I want and I'm just doing this and I'm going toward the goal, but also I'm not sharing it with anybody because I know I had that kind of a thinking about it, and looking back I understand that I had that thing, that realization that I don't have an opportunity to say it or to share it with anybody, so I can be heard or I can be listened to and really supported. So that's why I saw no point in that. Why should I talk about this? Why should I talk about my plans for my life if you're not interested anyway? So I had that kind of a concept, and that's why it shaped me as a callous person, and that's why this callousness gave me this ability, this skill. Now listen to the laughs of other, or now listen to the mockery of other, or now listen to the try attempts to offend me, of other people to offend me. But also on the other side, I can't say that I'm so independent and so independent from anybody, from any people, or from any thoughts and opinions of other. I can't say that. Of course, I say that it shaped me in a way that I became callous to a certain extent. But from the other side, I understand that sometimes it hurts. But the thing that are happening when you are alone and when you are just experiencing that pain or that sadness, it's still there. It's still there because we're still human, and every human being is sensitive. No matter is it a man or is it a woman, we don't talk about the difference of a gender here, because there is none in this kind of things, about the opinions of other, or the comments of other, or a lot of other things that we can hear. Or and I really admire the people who say, I just don't care about this, and people who genuinely don't care. And I've met one person like that, and I admire that person a lot, because what I hear, I really understand that person really doesn't care about the opinions, the possible opinions that can be not true, but that is something that is so it just so out there, and people talk, and we know all that, and we all are like this. And he said, oh, well, I just don't care. I know that it's not true, and that's enough for me. Sometimes, and I thought, wow, sometimes I want that the whole world know that it's not true. And I want to be that, righteous person that is telling everybody that is not true about me. But then you realize that nobody really cares that much now, because everybody forgot, or because of other reasons. And it's just, you spend your energy, you wasted your energy. You spend your energy for something that is not beneficial or helpful to you at all. And then you have nothing. In the end, you have just sadness. You have that regret that maybe you spent yourself, or you poured yourself upon something that was not worth it. And so the conclusion is, I really admire that person. Well, and so it shaped me in this way, but also I want to make this emphasis that every single person is very different, and we have so many sides, and you never know. Sometimes the person looks so tough, and you think nobody or nothing can offend that person. But then you understand that person is really suffering in a certain situation, about certain people, or about certain life episodes. But we don't know. We don't know about that. Why I'm grateful for it. Why I'm grateful for the environment that I grew in, for for the way it shaped me, for my life story in general. Why am I grateful for that? Well, for a lot of reasons. I'm grateful for that for a lot of reasons. First of all, because of the way it shaped me. So the second point of what I was talking about, answering about my life story, is something that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for every sad situation, every heartbreak. And I'm not talking about love, but heartbreak can happen not only about love, not only about romantic relationship. Heartbreak can happen in so many other things when you're working so hard for something, applying somewhere, because you see that as something, as an opportunity for you to be there, to be somewhere, to do something, to become the person that you think you want to become, and then it's not happening. And that's really heartbreaking. But then you understand that it should have been this way because you were not ready, but you couldn't admit that. So this, I can say that in such a case, this heartbreak is not justified, but still it's a heartbreak. No matter what, it's still a heartbreak. You still feel this, and you still are in this state of your heart and state of your thoughts when you think something is not happening for you. So I'm grateful for how it shaped me, because I would not be able to be the person that I am right now without the environment that I grew in. It's only something very small, a very small part of my environment. Because I will tell you why, because I just wrote down before the recording, I wrote down a few just the points that I want to talk about. And I didn't write detailed points of every point. So that's why it was hard for me to say it more laconic and more structured. And why I'm grateful for it, going back to the point number 3, why I'm grateful for it. As I already said, because I would not be able to be the person that I am now. Absolutely impossible. It's absolutely impossible to be somebody that I am now without everything that I came through in my past. Past is past, and past is in the past. But also I appreciate past for what kind of person the past made out of me for my present and then for my future. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I'm talking not about the past. I'm talking about present moment or about future moment. But this work is possible because I was in a certain condition that allowed to make this work happen. Sometimes there are certain requirements for a work. And I believe that this is so in our life. This is really so in our life. When we have certain chapters of our life. And then for certain chapters of our life, we have requirements. There are requirements that require us to be a certain way mentally, physically, or spiritually. And there is some requirements for every chapter. And so that's why the work that I'm doing now, everything that I'm creating now, became possible because of the person that I became in the past, that past made out of me. Because of the environment that I grew in, because of my mindset, because of the problems and weak spot that I got. And then after that, I need to work hard on them. Psychologically work hard on them, asking myself 1,000 questions, being honest, admitting the truth when I was crying, because the truth is not sweet. It's bitter and it's painful and it's suffering and it's tearful. And so I'm grateful for every single episode of my life story, and of my life story that is to come as well. And yeah, I just have this thoughts about who I am now, and I understand that I'm still have so much to learn, so much to work on. I understand that. But also I understand what a far cry I am from the past me. And that is the most wonderful and the most pleasant realization that can possibly happen right now in this studio. And very symbolically, I want to share with you right now. I'm sitting in a studio. It's quite spacious. It's full of light, but a little bit dark because it's rainy outside today. And then there is a huge plant on the windowsill, and only one reddish flower. It is so beautiful. So the plant is green, different shades of green. And then this only one left flower. It's red. It's a little bit Indian red, such a color, and it is so beautiful. It's blooming. It's in its strength and in its power. It is in its beauty and in its highness. And this flower looks like a queen. It looks like a queen. But it is also very lonely. And very lonely because nobody of the flowers is there anymore. They withered, and I just admire this flower so much. And I understand, in order to become a flower, in order for this flower to bloom like that, you need a process. So this is a parallel that I came up with right now. You really need to come through a certain way of growth, and only then you are able to become that flower. And it takes time. You don't become the flower just right away. It takes time. It takes time of being in the shades of a lot of leaves. It takes times to not being seen. It takes time of so many difficulties. And I would say that every person can be compared with that flower. Remember, I told you not to compare yourself with anybody, and it's not like I'm advising, but it's like I'm telling from my own experience, because it's unpleasant, and it hurts a lot. And you understand a lot of things about yourself, about how miserable you are or something like that, which is no use. It's not helping you. It just making you hold back. It just making you slowly, just making you so kind of a person that you don't want to be. But with a flower, I do want that you compare yourself with every flower that you see, or with every plant that you see and you like it. And remember how much time it takes for this flower to be in its beauty, for this flower to shine with its beauty. It takes time. It takes a lot of efforts. It takes a lot of episodes and times when you are in the shades, when nobody admires you, when nobody sees you, when nobody really appreciates you. And then you become a flower, this beautiful shining flower. And I'm not just talking right now, I'm looking at that very specific flower, but I think that every flower is beautiful, or every plant, or everything in the nature is beautiful. So I like to compare my life story or my way with the flowers, not with other people, but flowers. Or in my case it's flowers, sometimes other plants, but mostly flowers. And it's really so. Right now this flower is enjoying its beauty, and it's not about the beauty. I'm emphasizing the beauty, but when I say the beauty so many times, I don't mean the appearance. I don't mean something just outward. I mean the process that is behind. I mean the time that you took in order to become who you are. I mean all endless efforts that you put into becoming who you are. I'm talking about this. This is attractive. This is beautiful. So I will remind you about this next episodes as well, but I am reminding you this episode that when I say beautiful or I admire beauty, it's not about outward beauty. It's not just about appearance. It's not about how you look, but it's about who you are. It's about who you became. It's about who you were and who you are now. So I understand that this flower, there was no flower here. It was just this plant, because this plant it's a green plant. I don't know the name. It's a green plant, a lot of leaves, and then it just one flower. There were 3 or more, and more to come, but the rest that are to come, I can't see them now very clearly. I just see something radish in the midst of green leaves, and that's it. But the flower that is blooming, the only one right now, I can see that. I can admire that, and I can just, when I look at that flower, I see the way. I see the path that was full of thorns, the path that was full of struggles, and the paths that were full of enemies, or full of unkind people, or unkind situation, or any other obstacles that can possibly come. And when I look at that proud flower, I understand how long the path was toward this point. We have 13 minutes left. And 13 minutes left, I want to talk and spend that time on something very specific, which is Ukrainian. So, as I said, and as I mentioned previous time in our previous episode, I do like talking and mentioning about my nation, about my country, about the history, because that is my background, and I grew up there. And no matter where I am, I still want to go back to my country. I still want to be able to go to my Ukraine whenever I want, or for how long I want, or to live there. And that is the part of my background, and I can take it apart from me. And maybe you have seen already the cover of my show. So it's me in the red dress, and then in the background there is ruins and destructed kind of a building. And this also has a meaning and has to do with my background, because my background, it's not easy. My life story is not easy, and the terrible things that are happening right now in Ukraine are not easy as well. You know what is the price of the war? The blood of the nation, the blood of the people. That is the price of the war. And my heart is aching every time I think about this. And every time I realize that the price of the war is the blood of my people. And that is the hard truth that I should accept. And everybody of us should accept, because we never know. We never know with whom it can happen. We never know when, where it can happen. So we should be careful with talking, with our words. We should be very careful when we discuss something. We discuss something about political affairs, about so many things that has to do with other people, we should be careful because we never know. Yeah, and I am proud. I am proud to be Ukrainian. And I am proud of Ukrainian language as well, and Ukrainian history. I admire Ukrainian language a lot. And today I want to talk about Ukrainian as well, as we talked a little bit about Ukrainian last time, about the difference and why there is this question so often, isn't it the same as Russian? And I explained that. So if you want to hear it again, you can listen it on SoundCloud or YouTube with the same name, Beyond and Under. And I want to share 3 points about the Ukrainian and about how unique it is and why it is unique. Why it is a unique language. Every language is unique, but we should really know and be conscious and be aware of the uniqueness of our language, of our mother tongue. I would say, number one, what is so interesting and so unique about Ukrainian? Number one is astonishing variability. So the Ukrainian is known for its melodic nature. It's very melodic. It's, whenever I really enjoy talking and speaking in Ukrainian because the sounds are so melodic. And also as a quick fact about Ukrainian language, there was a certain competition of how beautiful, how melodic, how mellifluous the language is, and Ukrainian was in top 3 languages, according to the sound, according to how it sounds, how beautiful it is. And so it's known for its melodic nature, and it is very pleasing to the ear, so it's very pleasant to listen to. And what is important about this point, astonishing variability, is that Ukrainian has rich vocabulary of synonyms. That is so huge. For one word, we have so many synonyms that sometimes I'm just so lost in this endless list of synonyms to one word. So it's very variable. So it has a rich vocabulary. And because most Ukrainian words, they have several synonyms, which helps make oral or written communication more poetic. So in the very core, it's about being poetic, being pleasant, being pleasing to the ear. And another point is delicate language. Ukrainian is a delicate language because there are a lot of endearments and diminutives for it's common and it's typical for a lot of for every language, I guess. And it's a very universal category inherent in almost all languages. But in Ukraine, we have a very special place for these endearments and diminutives. And this makes the language, the Ukrainian, extraordinarily tender and delicate. It makes it so soft and so tender. And yeah, so finding another language with so many endearing words as Ukrainian is hard. It's hard because it takes a very serious and important place in Ukrainian. And even in our national anthem, Ukrainians, we affectionately, this word here is important, we affectionately refer to our enemies as vorozhenki, which means little enemies. And it's really endearment, and it's a very cute word because it's not just enemies, because enemies, it's just clear, it's enemies, right? But it's more like little enemies, like small enemies, like воріженьки. Because enemy in Ukrainian is ворог. But we in endearment, in this endearment category, in this endearment type of language, we say воріженьки. So it sounds very soft and very tender, as if we don't want to have enemies, but we just happen to have them. And the last point here is exceptionally rich vocabulary. We already mentioned about astonishing variability, and that it has a lot of synonyms to every word, every single word. But also Ukrainian has exceptionally rich vocabulary. And I would say that Ukrainian we have in Ukrainian, sorry, I forgot exact number, that's why I'm trying to check it. I found it. We have around 256,000 words. There is 256,000 words in Ukrainian. So think about this number, 256,000 words. I will repeat one more time. 256,000 words. And in contrast, that you understand more or less, in contrast to Russian, which contains 150,000 words. And then 256,000 words. Yes. So we have exceptionally rich vocabulary. And that is really true, because there are a lot of ways of saying one word because of very variable synonyms. Yes. Give me a second. 1 second for example, I just wanted to come up with a certain example, a factual example, and I found one. I wrote that down previously, and I found it now. So the example of, for example, we have in Ukrainian, we have the word to beat, a verb. To do what? To beat somebody or to beat something. And for example, in Ukrainian, we have 45 equivalents for that word. And that's why this diversity and this very rich and variable synonyms and astonishing variability and exceptionally rich vocabulary, it makes it hard and challenging to learn Ukrainian. And it's not fun when the language is so rich and it's not your mother tongue. Because for me, as a Ukrainian, and for me Ukrainian is my mother tongue, and it's very dear to my soul, to my heart and to my soul. So for me it's really exciting, and I really appreciate the fact that it is so rich, that I can explore the vocabulary, I can explore a certain list of synonyms to one word, and because I want to find exactly one word that is exactly what I want to say, and it makes it so wonderful. It makes me appreciate it even more. But I understand that for a foreigner that would be a little bit complex, and I think for a foreigner it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. Yeah, so revising astonishing variability, delicate language, tender and very, it's and very endearing. It's tender and endearing and delicate. and exceptional rich vocabulary. We are finishing here. It's very sudden. Okay, Beyond and Under with Baran and Ashuk. Bye bye. I should go.